Hi, welcome back to the Chef Share series with EPCC Culinary Arts. I'm Chef Rosser with you again. This week we're going to be talking about grilling and broiling. Now these are both dry heat cooking methods, very similar in the way that they cook foods, but we're going to talk about the similarities as well as the differences. We're going to be looking at a few different pieces of equipment. We're going to be cooking some fish, some chicken, some beef, and vegetables. We're also going to be looking at how to maintain and use these pieces of equipment properly so that you get not only the most efficient cooking out of them, but get a nice long life out of them and the equipment maintenance itself. All right, hope you guys enjoy this and give us a like and subscribe. Also let us know in the future what videos you'd like to see us do for you. So this first piece of equipment that we're going to be looking at is known as a salamander. It's also a line broiler, and it's a fairly shallow unit. This is most oftentimes used to finish items, and that's really important because unless it's a delicate protein or something like that, we're probably not going to start and finish an item in here. We're oftentimes going to use this to broil items just to finish them for service. We want to make sure that this piece of equipment is nice and clean, so we're going to get a wire brush and make sure that your grates are nice and clean if you're going to put anything directly on the grates. Most of the time, because of the height that these things are situated at, we don't use the grates. So I'm going to set my brush down. I'm going to do a broiled Mahi Mahi in there, and I'm going to use an aluminum sizzle platter, as we call them, or this is an 1/8 pan. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my Mahi out, and Edgar, could you cut that, please? Cut that open. The first thing I'm going to do is brush my Mahi pan with a little bit of clarified butter. So the first thing I'm going to do is brush the pan that I'm going to cook my fish in with a little butter so that that fish doesn't stick to my pan. I'm then going to get my fish out and my seasoning, and I've got it all handy right here. My fish, I'm going to brush with butter also, and this is just some nice little 3-ounce fillets of mahi. So I'm going to get a couple of these out for you to broil. I'm going to brush them with my clarified butter and then season on both sides. So I'm just using a really simple Old Bay seasoning, and this is a very traditional East Coast seafood seasoning used for shrimp, crabs, fish, whatever the case is, and I'm going to turn that over and get both sides. Make sure that I've got plenty of butter on there as well. And then I'm just going to put this into my hot broiler. I don't want to get too much seasoning on there, but I need to make sure that I get that flavor in there. This is a really distinct seasoning. It does great in the broiler, but if we get too much on there, it can scorch. And then I'm going to give it one last brush of butter just to make sure that everything cooks nicely. And then I'm going to pop this guy into the broilers. And this broiler tray will pull out and get that in there. And I'm just going to watch this. Now this broiler can be moved up or down depending on what your needs are. So I'm going to move it to the middle setting. I want that relatively close to the burner so that we get that really high intense heat on there very quickly. Fish is a very delicate protein, so we want to make sure that we don't overcook that. We'll come back in a minute and take a look at this. So this fish has been cooking for a couple of minutes. I want to take it out and make sure that I'm not scorching. So I'm going to set it down here, and I'm just going to gently turn this over and put it back into my broiler. We're starting to get some nice color on there. We just want to make sure that we don't scorch this fish. I'm going to put it back in for a couple more minutes, and then it's going to be done. Super simple. So our fish has been in for almost 5 minutes. And these broilers are extremely efficient because remember, they cook from the top down, and that flame is within inches of that protein. So this fish is fully cooked, and we're going to set this aside for our plate up now. So the next item that we're going to do in our broiler or our salamander is going to be a potato gratin. Now this is just simply mashed potatoes with a little Parmesan cheese in them, and I've made a very simple breadcrumb topping. It also has Parmesan cheese, herbs, and butter in it, and some panko breadcrumbs. So I'm going to spoon a little bit of this on top and just spread them around very gently. We don't want to mash them down at all. We're going to put this in our salamander. These only take a few seconds, and we're just going to look for a nice golden browning of those breadcrumbs, mostly for presentation purposes. So we're going to go into our salamander. We're going to put these in our salamander, pull out our rack, and set them in there. I've turned one side down to low so we don't burn those, and I've dropped my rack to the lowest setting. We're going to push those in, and don't walk away from this. This is something that will burn in a heartbeat. Now you can use your broiler setting on an oven at home. Just make sure you keep an eye on these items. It's starting to cook already. I'm seeing some movement on the breadcrumbs, and that's exactly what we want to see. That butter's kind of popping. I'm going to go ahead and push this to the back a little bit and give it a spin. There we go. It's already happening. It's beautiful. And about 5-10 seconds, and we're going to be done with this. And that is it right there. Beautiful presentation. Got a nice light golden browning on top of there. And it smells amazing. Try this at home. I guarantee you're going to love it. So now we're going to move over to our grill, and this is a large commercial grill. One thing that we need to make sure of is that this piece of equipment has been cleaned properly before we start using it. So I'm just going to use our regular wire brush, and we want to make sure that we get anything off of the surface that might cause our products to stick or get any blackening on that product that we don't want. So after it's brushed properly, what I've gone ahead and done is made a grill mop, and I've got an old rag, and I've tied it up, and I put it in vegetable oil. So I'm just going to rub this over my grates to make sure that I have a nice, clean, oiled surface. You don't want to get too much oil down in there, but you want to get it spread evenly. So I'm just going to come across the grill grates, and you'll see if your grill's nice and hot, it's going to spread on there. And there we go. I had to get a better grip on that. And I'm just working from the bottom up. And if it gets a little hot, just get your hand out of the way, because this grill is screaming hot now, just like it's supposed to be. Get any spots you missed, you want to make sure you do the whole grill. Now for this grill presentation, what I've done is half of my grill is on high, the other half is off. So I have a hot side and a warm side, because that radiant heat is going to the side that's off. And I can, if I need to slow down the cooking because it's too high, or I need to let things finish, I can just move them from my hot side to my warm side. Okay, so the first item that we're going to cook here is we have a really nice, beautiful chicken supreme, which is a boneless, skinless breast, and we've gone ahead and done just a light herb and lemon zest marinade. I'm going to go ahead and put this on the grill, nicely oiled. There is oil in the marinade as well, which is going to help keep it from sticking and also let those spices penetrate. So I want to set this on my grill to create beautiful marks on it at about a 45-degree angle. So, and to create those grill marks, I'm going to move it 90 degrees from there so I get those crosshatch marks, and you'll see what I'm talking about after I move this and flip it. We'll come back in a few minutes and take a look at this. So our chicken breast has been on here for about 5 minutes. We're gonna rotate it 90 degrees to create those really beautiful crosshatches. You'll see we've got grill marks in one direction. We're gonna create that nice crosshatch. We'll come back and we'll turn this over, and you'll see how that effect really makes a beautiful presentation. So we've got our nice crosshatch mark on here. So now we're gonna turn this over, and you get to see how those grill marks happen right there. We're going to put this on the side that has not been cooked. Do the same thing. We'll show you this when it comes off and it's done. So our chicken breast has been cooking here for about 12 minutes. It's got beautiful cross hatches on it on both sides. This is done, and we're going to set this aside for presentation. Now remember, with grilling and broiling, the difference is broiling, the heat comes from the top, and with grilling, heat comes from the bottom. They're both going to have these nice heavy iron grates. Now, if we want to cook something that's relatively fatty, like a big thick steak, I always recommend using a broiler, and in the professional kitchens, broilers are preferred for large steaks because that fat that drips off is not going to drip down into a flaming, that fat is not going to flame up and burn the outside of that steak. But with something lean like this chicken breast, grills are great. So just keep that in mind. Big, thick, fatty steaks, perfect in the broiler. The next item we're going to grill is this porterhouse steak. Now this steak isn't super thick, but it's about an inch and a half thick. What I've got on here is just oil, salt, and pepper. I always try to oil my meats before I grill them to make sure that one, the seasoning sticks, but two, and very importantly, to transmit heat to cook more efficiently. So I'm gonna get this on the grill and we're gonna do those same crosshatch marking that we did with the chicken. However, you'll notice that this is much fattier than a boneless, skinless chicken breast. If we start getting flare-ups, I'm gonna move it to my warm side just to prevent that. And we've got an even thicker porterhouse that we're gonna do in the commercial broiler in just a little bit. So let's go ahead and get this guy on. And a porterhouse, just so you know, is like a T-bone. However, it's a little further up on the tenderloin. So the skinny side, which is the tenderloin side, is much thicker, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and get this on. See that nice sizzling smoke? Exactly what we're looking for. We'll do our cross hatches, flip it over, and now this is going to be different from that chicken breast because a chicken breast has to be cooked to 165 degrees. However, with a big porterhouse like this, typically served medium rare, we're going to take it to about 120 degrees and then let it rest in a warm spot so the carryover cooking happens and we get a nice medium rare out of it. We'll come back and take a look at this in a minute. So our steak has been cooking for about 12 minutes and we're at a really nice medium rare here. You can see those beautiful cross hatches that we've got on the top and on the bottom. That fat is browned and sizzling. So what we're gonna do at this point is we're gonna put this on a plate and we're gonna let it rest somewhere warm for about 5 to 10 minutes. Now you need to keep it warm so that the meat doesn't get cold, and you want to let that carryover cooking happen very gently so that when your guest cuts the steak open, it doesn't bleed out everywhere, and you have that perfect, beautiful, medium rare consistency. Now we're going to pass off this demonstration to Chef Guerra. He's going to take over on grilled vegetables and grilling another porterhouse. However, he's going to use the large commercial broiler for that. Enjoy.
All right, we're gonna move on to doing some vegetables that we can use for our grilling segment. And so we're gonna work with some baby bok choy and some baby carrots. You can actually find these when there's special occasions at your local grocery stores here in El Paso. So we're gonna start off by seasoning everything off with a little bit of olive oil. We do have our salt and pepper already mixed together. So we get nice and high so there's a nice spread of that salt and pepper. And then once we do that, we're gonna kind of just give these a little rub in the oil and the salt and pepper to make sure that they're coated nicely. All right. Also very important is that we keep the grill nice and hot. We're gonna go through and grease that up here in a little bit also. We wanna make sure we put enough oil and salt and pepper so that the oil helps the salt and pepper stick to the pan, to the actual vegetable that we're trying to season. And we also want to make sure that we have enough oil so that it helps in transferring that heat from the grill to the carrots very nicely. All right, so I think we got some very nice shiny looking carrots there. So we'll start off with those bad boys. I like to go crossways here, give them some nice grill marks and coloration. And these are tri-colored, so you'll see different colors, but they're all carrots. And some nice heat. All right, bok choy is gonna go a little bit faster than that. And you can see that, you know, it's got lots of room for that heat to fly through it. And then this is gonna wilt out real nicely also. These we can do cross marks on, so we're gonna go through and put them at their angles. All right. And again, if you feel like maybe the back got a little bit under seasoned, you can come back and season it again. You can see that that heat's working really well. You see the flames trying to come up and catch the oil on fire. That tells us that we have a nice heat. Okay. All right, so got a little bit of grill mark on there. We're gonna let them go a little longer. All right. Very nice. Again, if you're pressed for time or something, you want a little cheat, what we can do is put these into boiling water really quickly and then throw them onto the grill for a while. These, I'd probably leave them in boiling water for about 4 minutes and then throw them back on the grill so that they can finish cooking off the rest of the way. Get some of that charred smoky flavor that we're looking for off of our grill preparations. Again, you can see the stems, they have nice coloration to them also. So that kind of gives the customer or your guests the inclination that this came off the grill. All right, and we're gonna cross these the other way. These bok choy aren't going to take too much longer. All right. So what we've done is we've got very high heat on the left-hand side and it cools as we go to the right. And that's so that once we get these nice and seared, basically, these are all nice and seared, we're gonna put them on this low heat and let them continue to cook a little bit longer, just so that the core, you can see this core is very thick and dense. So we wanna make sure that that cooks out a little bit more and not wilt the leaves so much. So we will continue to let those cook a little bit longer here on this side. All right, so after about 10 to 12 minutes, depending on the size of your vegetables, they are done. We're gonna go ahead and start pulling these bok choy off first. And you can see how they have these nice little crispy edges that let you know that they were on the grill. Some nice grill marks on them and some grill markings. And then same thing on the carrots. You can see that we got some nice color to them. And nice grill marks and markings on them. So we can take these and utilize them in a plate up, or we can just leave them just like this with a nice beautiful steak like we did today. Just put these on the side and everybody can help themselves to their bok choy or their carrots. All right, welcome to our research and test kitchen, which is currently under our partnership with Cisco Foods of New Mexico. In here, we're gonna go over some more broiling techniques. In this case, we're gonna go through and work with a porterhouse. If you don't know, a porterhouse is actually 2 cuts of meat in one. It's very similar to a T-bone. It just depends on how deep into the beef that we cut into it. So this porterhouse has very, I'm gonna use just one hand because I need the other hand for seasoning. It's distinct cuts. The bone is separating them. So over here on my right-hand side, you're gonna see this New York strip steak sitting here. And over here on this side, this is the filet. On the flip side, you're gonna see it gets a little bit bigger because the loin gets larger as it goes through the side of the beef. You can see we've already pre-seasoned this. I'm gonna hit it with a little bit more olive oil and salt and pepper. And if you're wondering, this is actually a choice graded cut of beef. So as you're looking at it, the way it's graded is, see all the little white marks inside there? That means that it's got fat marbled within the actual beef. So that's very important. We want that to actually help us develop flavor and moisture. So from here, we're gonna go through and add it into our salamander. All right, so we're gonna go through and we're gonna start by searing it off. You can see these grill grates are almost white and you can hear the sizzle. All right, after about 10 minutes of searing, and we decided 10 minutes because of the thickness of this steak, we're gonna go through and flip it over now. So you can see that we have beautiful grill marks from that bottom side and we got a nice sear on the outside. And we're gonna let it sit again another about 15 minutes and continue to cook. And that's gonna get us to a really nice medium rare steak. All right, so after we let that cook for about another 10 minutes or so, you can see we got a nice sear on the flip side of it again. So what we're gonna do is move it over to the cooler side of the grill. So we actually did separate the heat levels, and you can take a look here. This one's open all the way. This one's only about a quarter of the way or halfway. So that way we don't have that burned, charry texture on the beef, but we do get a nice sear on it, and we cook it all the way through. It takes a little bit longer because we do have a bone running through it. So we're trying to keep all these different factors in check and make sure that the heat isn't too high for us. All right, so once we flipped it, we put it back in the broiler here. We make sure that this was our hot side, so this is gonna be all the way up at 100%, and this is our cooler side, so we have it about halfway of the amount of heat that we have on the left side. All right, so after about 30 minutes of sitting in the broiler, we lowered the heat a little bit, we let this rest. Before we actually serve this though, we do wanna let it rest at room temperature, so we'll take this off, put it on a pan, set it aside, and serve it later.